All right, we got a lot to dive into in this series. It has been so interesting for both these teams' franchises, futures, some of the personnel, and more. Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio, going to jump on the Boardwalk on the hotline with us right now, Mike and Moshe, on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash with Mitch Lawrence. Mitch, welcome back, pal. How you been?
Gentlemen, I've been fine. I'm just waiting for Golden State to start getting some healthy bodies back because they obviously need Klay Thompson, and I think they also need Kevin Durant to pull the series out now.
Wow. All right. Let me start with this then. Where are you on the conversation of Iguodala and Draymond Green for Hall of Fame?
Well, here's the way I look at people like players like Iguodala, Robert Horry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They have given us Hall of Fame moments. They're not necessarily Hall of Fame players. And I think you have to make a distinction there. I mean, Klay Thompson has had some remarkable games. Go back to the great game in Oklahoma City where he saved the Warriors' season making 11 threes, which was an NBA record at that point for a playoff game. To me, that's a Hall of Fame moment. Now, a lot of people think that Golden State has 3 Hall of Famers. I know they got 2. Now, the problem with Klay is I don't think he's made All-NBA yet. If you're not making All-NBA, how are you going to make the Hall of Fame? You just can't be an all-star. That's not good enough. To me, you've got to be a top 10, top 14, 15 player. And the way we determine that is all NBA voting. I don't think he's made an all-NBA team yet, which everybody goes crazy about. So now he's had Hall of Fame moments, so that's going to help him, and he's been a part of the Warriors championship run. The other thing is, how many guys with the number 3 options are in the Hall of Fame? I'll give you one, James Worthy. James Worthy is a top 50 all-time player because he played with Kareem and Magic on those great Laker teams. There aren't a lot of them. Now, maybe Klay Thompson will be the next guy. But a guy like Iguodala, guys, he's the 4th option on a championship team. He has had Hall of Fame moments, including the strip of Damian Lillard in the Portland series, including the great, end-of-game shot, which a guy like Robert Horry did all the time. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is not a Hall. He might give you Hall of Fame moments, but you look at his career, and I know he's been a Finals MVP, and I don't think he's a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, by the way, Klay has third team twice.
Okay, third team twice. That's good. That's important because if you want to make the Hall of Fame, I would think you got to make, first team. I mean, when you look back at the guys I grew up with, and this is dating me, Jerry West and Oscar Robertson, they were like 10-time first-team All. And that was your backcourt of the NBA back in the 60s, and you had Magic Johnson. These guys are Hall of Famers. Now, I'm not saying you can't have lesser players get in, but it's been so diluted lately that, yes, they are taking more players. I hope Klay Thompson, he should be all defense. He should, he's one of the top players in terms of his position in the game. He just doesn't get the recognition, and I hope it doesn't catch up with him. Hey, let me tell you something. A guy like Ben Wallace, who was like a 3 or 4-time defensive player of the year in all defense, he's starting to get some recognition, and people have problems with that. I don't, because at least he has what we used to call, they have the bold print on the back of their playing card. That bold print is you're one of the top players at your position during your era.
Well, the reason I asked that question to lead us here is because I wanted to ask you. You've got Curry and 2 guys who are being discussed as Hall of Fame level players, and you get blown out at home last night. Is that not disappointing?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Curry was a lot like LeBron in the 2015 playoffs. Finals. He was going alone, except he had better guys.
LeBron don't have 2 Hall of Fame conversational players.
Well, yeah, but you know what? Your accolades only take you so far. You got to go out and make shots and play, and they didn't do that last night. They got trampled. In the second half, they were never closer than 7, and defensively, they were wrecked. Now, when you bring on new players and guys who haven't played in a long time, and you're asking DeMarcus Cousins to be coordinated on defense with other players, that's asking a lot in the finals. That's asking too much. So what we got last night was Danny Green and Kyle Lowry, who combined for 9 threes in the first 2 games, only 39 points. They gave you 11 and 20 attempts and 41 points.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be
defense. That was incredible. But yeah, I know. I got a little debate on Twitter today when people said, well, Steph had more because this guy says, well, you got to play like it. Did those guys play like it? Those guys played like garbage in a lot of ways. Iguodala, Sean Livingston, DeMarcus Cousins combined gave you 19 points. By the way, I haven't heard anybody talking about Andre Iguodala for the Hall of Fame today.
No, exactly. That's the point we were trying to make today. And I thought, Mitch, that Draymond Green, I know at the end of the game the numbers look good, 17 points, 7 boards, but for 3 quarters, For a guy who I thought really needed to step up and be the Draymond Green pre-Kevin Durant there,
well,
you think of Game 7 a few years ago, they lost it, but he had an unbelievable game, 32 points. He just didn't – he was not the Draymond Green he needed to be.
But you know what? Draymond Green's problem, and by the way, they going into the fourth quarter down 13. I never had thought they had a shot to win the game. Draymond Green is not we all know he's not a good shooter. He's a guy you're going to leave open. And so Steph Curry's problem last night was he had to have people step up and give him, Klay Thompson will give you 20, 25 points. When three guys like that, Iguodala, Livingston, and Cousins are giving you 19 points combined and Draymond Green's not shooting well, I mean, you can't. See, the problem is you get depleted to a point where, first of all, it's going to kill your own team, and you're playing a very good team in Toronto. And those guys last night made their shots. And, the thing nobody's talking about is this is their first finals game on the road. Oracle, not an easy place to play. And although they had the built-in advantage going into the game, Klay Thompson's on the bench and sweats, Kevin Durant's in the back getting ice, whatever, you still got to win. You still got to make the plays to win. And they did great. My only question about Toronto is, can they win a close game in this series? A nip-and-tuck game with lead changes down the wire, what I call getting themselves a June win. What the Warriors got in Game 2 is what I look at as a June win, meaning with all the adversity they faced, they only had one basket in the last 5.5 minutes. They still pulled the game out. Why? Because they have experience of winning these type of games in the finals, in the playoffs, and they've got championships to back it up. Toronto, to me, doesn't have that yet. I'll be fascinated to see look, they've won 2 blowout games. I need to see them win. I want to see them win a close game. Now, Nick Nurse will sit there and tell you, I want 2 more blowout wins and I got a banner. I understand that. But I just want to see if Toronto has what it takes to win a close game against Golden State late and pull something out of the fire.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a more entertaining series than I think a lot of people thought. Toronto was ahead 2-1 with the game on Friday night in Oakland. Now, my disappointment would come from 2. I get it. Curry had not a lot of help. He scores 47. He was brilliant. They gave up 123 with guys like Iggy and Draymond, who were thought to be first-team level defenders.
Well, you know what? They gave up in the first game. They gave up a ton of points. What did they give up? 118, 119 points in that first game. You know what?
That's what would be disappointing for me, Mitch, if I'm a Golden State fan, is you got these – okay, we're limited offensively last night. I get it. But how you giving up 123 to a Raptors team who is very defensive-minded?
Well, you know what? I'm sure Golden State fans were as amazed as I was that you had their Toronto backcourt step up like they did because those guys had been invisible. First game, 4 of 12 combined for Green and Lowry. Second game, 5 of 12. 18 points, 20 points combined the first 2 games. That's nothing. So they probably figured, you know what, they're shooting at these, they're on the road now and they're not at home anymore. They'll probably be as bad, if not worse. And that's where Nick Nurse and his guys got a tremendous, Kawhi was great. But you know what, when they get all kinds of scoring from Siakam and Gasol and their other guys like they did last night, and Golden State's defense is disappointing at times. There's no doubt about that. It's not the same. The one thing is it's not the same this year. And it's not the same without Klay Thompson, and it's not the same without Kevin Durant. Because as much as we talk about Kevin Durant as an offensive player, and he's one of the best all time at his position, maybe one of the best all time players when all is said and done. He's won scoring titles. He's been amazing in the last couple of finals. They miss his presence on the back line because he can stand there and he can actually defend shots. So they're missing key components. No, they're not as good as they were in the past. And you have a team like Toronto that's making shots and working the ball around. Toronto did a phenomenal job getting a lot of assists on their basket. So all that added up to a bad loss for Golden State, and now they're behind the 8 ball.
What did you make of the Kyle Lowry, and obviously we've now found out it's a Warriors owner, minority owner, I guess, who shoved him in the stands last night, and now I think the NBA has suspended the owner from going to the games. I'm just wondering, for all the years you've covered the league and seen some incidents, it seems like every once in a while something comes around that makes you rethink either policy or how this can happen. But do you think that there's any precedent or slippery slope that can occur now that something like this has happened?
Well, you guys go to games. You know that there's a fans' code of conduct. That's usually they have a video announcement, a presentation before the game of what fans can get. And you know what? A fan can't go at it at a player like he did. We saw earlier was in the Oklahoma City-Utah game. Mm-hmm. Russell Westbrook went back at it with fans, and those guys I think they got suspended for life. They can't go to games anymore. People have to be, just because you pay good money and a lot of money for courtside seats doesn't entitle you to berate players. This is all covered by the code of conduct, by the way, that came in post Auburn Hills and what happened out there years ago. So what this guy did last night, this owner, a minority owner, shame on him. He can't be. And I saw the play. I don't know what made him do that. You can't do that with a Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry's asking for a lifetime ban. We'll see what the NBA does. But that's the type of thing that the league has to protect its players first and foremost, because you can't have idiot fans going out and touching guys and berating guys. And like I said, it's this code of conduct. It's definitely on the books. It's been on the books for a few years now. And fans have to comport themselves correctly here and not get into it with the players, because that could lead to a dangerous situation.
And I don't know how I don't know how this guy can't get the same lifetime ban that the guys in Utah got. This guy put his hands on a player, and if he doesn't get something that's exactly the same as what the guys got in Utah, then people are going to say, "Oh, well, because he's a minority owner,
you got LeBron,
and he's wealthy."
You got LeBron tweeting about it.
Of course, Commissioner LeBron is trying to get him gone. So I feel like there's going to be some inconsistencies there if this guy doesn't get the same treatment.
Probably will be inconsistencies. We'll see what Adam Silver, how they rule. It's interesting, LeBron, I forgot all about LeBron. He's not involved in the playoffs. He's not involved in the finals. We miss him, don't we?
Yes.
So, hey, we'll see how it plays out. I'm sure that the Golden State, whoever this minority owner is, will have to apologize to Kyle Lowry and make good somehow, and then I'm sure he'll pay a fine or whatever. But I don't foresee that he would be suspended for life.
Klay Thompson is scheduled to be back tomorrow night, Mitch, and you wonder, he's the third guy a lot of times, KD, Curry, and then Klay, but is he really the guy who's the glue to this team that doesn't get enough conversation about it?
Well, they all say the glue of the team is Draymond Green. That's the guy who really is, he's the guy who incites a lot of stuff in a positive way. He's the guy who pushes the pace. But Klay Thompson, obviously, you got to have, he covers. He's the guy who gives you the toughest cover. Whether the best offensive player, he'll be on him. And we all know what he can do three-point shooting-wise. And like I said earlier when we opened the show with this Hall of Fame thing, he gives you Hall of Fame moments. When their backs are against the wall, he'll give you a bunch of threes. He'll make some huge plays. So, you stack it up. You've got Durant, Curry, 1A there. And then, I always think it's more of a Klay thing. But, hey, you watch that team and the way they were playing before the finals, Draymond Green was taking it to a different level. You saw what he did against Portland. He was impacting at both ends of the floor. He never played better in his life in some of those games. So, they've got those four guys. They are four guys who are hard to match. That's why I favored them in this series. I had no idea. I had an idea that Durant would be back. I had no idea that Klay would get hurt. But obviously the playing field's been leveled now. It's much more level because you've got significant entries to Golden State, while Kawhi, who had a knee problem earlier, is, we'll see how he is tomorrow. That's an interesting thing. Mm-hmm. But Kawhi seems to be holding up because you felt, with his shaky supporting cast, they've never been great all the time, these guys. If Kawhi was going to have some sort of a problem, complications arising from favoring the injured leg with the quad, and now he's got these knee problems, you got a game tomorrow night. We'll see how he is off of just one day off.
Crazy thing is, Mitch, we've got at least 2 guaranteed more games and maybe a little bit more. So we've got a lot of NBA Finals to talk, but I feel like that's just kind of, as soon as that's over, the NBA landscape is going to get rocked. I mean, there's going to be a lot of movement in free agency and some trades. Obviously, Anthony Davis is in the news. Give me your feel right now for the move that is going to rock the NBA offseason.
Well, I think, if Durant leaves Golden State, and I don't know what the situation is with him, but obviously that would rock.
Does this series have a lot of impact on his decision?
Who knows? He's not available to talk about it, and he doesn't give interviews, so I don't know if it's going to impact it one way or the other. I think if he looks at the situation, he should stay, because why would you leave a team like that needs you, A, and B, is still pretty damn good? I think, there's a lot of buzz now about Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. I don't understand that from the Nets standpoint. I can see Kyrie Irving wanting to come home, play for the Nets. He grew up a Net fan here over in Jersey. But if you're the Nets, do you want to take on Kyrie Irving, who was terrible as a leader? He had problems with Brad Stevens, and in terms of interacting and dealing with young teammates, you want him on that team? I mean, it would seem to be a recipe for disaster for the Nets. So it's interesting. I guess it's his side. He's telling his old, former teammates at different places, he's interested in Brooklyn. I'd like to really know if Brooklyn's interested in him, because that would rock. Obviously, that's going to rock Boston if he leaves.
Yeah, and I wonder, I mean, I know you know a lot about that Knicks situation there. Mitch Lawrence with us, SiriusXM NBA Radio. He's got a great piece right now at the Sporting News that we'll dive into, too. Do you think that Brooklyn is a bigger player than the Knicks are right now?
Well, it sounds like they are for Kyrie, but I don't know if they got a chance at Durant. Now, they could get a meeting with Durant, but, you know, the only team you really hear but for Durant if he leaves Golden State, I mean, there might be the Clippers who will get another meeting as they did a few years ago, but it's the Knicks. And the Knicks, you know, the thing about the Knicks up here is, I mean, the Nets, basketball fans know that the Nets are in a better situation because they're run better. They seem to have really established a culture. The Knicks talk about establishing a good culture. All they do is lose, and they've won. You know, they only won 17 games last year. They haven't established a culture yet. I don't think they know what that is. But guys like Sean Marks, who run the Nets, he's from San Antonio, and Kenny Atkinson, who did a great job coaching this year. I think you could see there's a definite difference between the two franchises in terms of how players like Kyrie Irving look at them. I think the players look at the Knicks and they're like, yeah, really, what is going on there? I mean, how's the owner going to be? How's the front office? Does the front office really know what they're doing? Because they really have never been around a championship situation. So, and from that standpoint, Brooklyn's in a better spot. The problem is that the Knicks dominate the coverage here, and they dominate everything. It's a Knick world, and the Nets are a distant second. So, you know, players have to kind of accept that. Now, I remember once, guys, when Jason Kidd first came here, he said, we won't be number 2 for long. When we asked him about that, but you know what? They're still number 2 by a good margin.
Yeah, you wrote a piece at sportingnews.com about these 6 teams and these 6 GMs, and I wonder, you know, you have the Nuggets, you got the Clippers, who a lot of people are talking about. You got the Pelicans, who are in a very odd situation this offseason. You've got the Timberwolves, who have a lot of decisions to make. Memphis, who's been a disaster the last couple of years. And Charlotte, who's a very intriguing team. And their GMs and their whole, you know, what's next for these 6 teams here. Are any of these teams players in free agencies? Because you write about the GMs that are like the forgotten GMs. They all have pretty high-profile GMs that could possibly get creative and make this offseason very interesting.
Well, actually, Mike, the gist of the story that I did was these are the 6 teams that have never made a finals. With the Raptors making the finals, that leaves these last 6. And I broke down all the teams, talking to different people around the league about where you rank these teams, and we looked at their owners and their GMs and their coaches and their rosters to kind of get a handle on, if you're a fan of the Charlotte Hornets, you got anything to hope for with Michael Jordan running your team and Mitch Kupchak running?
How bizarre is that? You got Michael Jordan, and he can't be a selling point to come play.
Well, you know what?
Look at his ownership career.
Look at his track. Forget about his playing career. Look at his track record as an owner in Charlotte. It hasn't been very good. And so the big question for them, that a lot of people down there, is going to be, is Michael Jordan actually going to give Kemba Walker a supermax deal of $220 million? And, you know, we'll see what Michael Jordan does. But anyway, I looked at all of those teams to try to figure out who's got a best chance to go to the finals and do the breakthrough like Toronto did. And we all know Denver has a great future with Jokic and guys like Jamal Murray. They still need to add some pieces probably. But also a team like the Clippers, they're sitting in a situation where they could have 2 max slots for this summer. Everybody thinks Kawhi, at least a lot of people think Kawhi's going there. Could Kevin Durant actually team up with him? If that happens, they would actually vault right probably to the top of the West. So it's a kind of interesting thing. The Minnesotas and the Memphises of the world, those franchises are kind of just spinning their wheels right now like Charlotte.
Yeah, a lot of these teams, the whole playoff offseason landscape, you got a team like Denver and the Clippers who were, you know, the Clippers, you could make an argument that in the West gave Golden State their best push, right? You had Kawhi and Durant to that team. They might be the number 1 team in the West that quickly. So this is a big offseason, and they have the biggest market. You have Denver out there. How do they get any better? You know what I mean? Like, it's like they're not getting a free agent to go there. They got to build from, with keep it
right.
grassroots.
Kevin Love.
They'll have to, they'll have to still see what they can do. You know, in terms of the Clippers, the interesting thing is they had a chance when they had, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan to kind of overtake the Lakers. They did a great job in the regular season. They just couldn't parlay that into any playoff success. But you know what? They're viewed as being a very attractive destination. They got an owner, Steve Ballmer, who's the richest owner in the NBA. He stays out of the business of basketball, which is always good. You don't want a meddling owner if you're a player looking to go there. And then obviously their front office under Lawrence, Frank, and a couple other guys, including Jerry West, are viewed as being very, very good. And then you've got, Doc Rivers. And Doc Rivers has, championship pedigree, coached the Celtics to a couple of finals, won a title there. So they're set up to be an attractive place, a big-time destination. And that's really the first time that you can say that about this team, because for years and years under Donald Sterling, they were very famous for only renting their own players, never giving the big-time free agent money, and basically being content with being in the shadows of the Lakers. Now the Lakers are a dysfunctional mess, a lot like the Clippers at times used to be, and now the Clippers have a real chance here to vault ahead of the Lakers in Los Angeles. That'll be a tremendously interesting story in this offseason.
Can that happen, though? Aren't the Clippers the Nets?
Well,
with better weather.
That's the thing. They certainly are. And Laker-wise, Laker Nation is huge compared to the Clipper deal, but the Lakers are such a mess. Just like the Knicks here, they're even worse off. At least they have LeBron James. But, how can they attract the big-time free agents? How are they going to be able to get Anthony Davis? Whereas the Clippers might be in better shape to actually pull off a couple of big moves.
All right, we'll see. Game 4 tomorrow night. Klay should be back. Does that mean the Warriors win and tie this thing up?
Well, you know what? That's their season, right? They can't fall behind. They can't lose 2 at home and then expect to go to Toronto and pull a rabbit out of the hat like they did with Oklahoma City a few years ago. I think they're going to need Durant, too. Going into the series, guys, I thought at some point they were going to have Durant, because I thought very highly of Toronto, what they've done. And also Golden State, like you said, their defense has flaws. They're not as good to me as they've been in the past, even with Steph Curry and their other guys. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Durant come back after basically 29, 30 days off and see how diminished he is, see what kind of help he can give them. He'll at least be a great decoy on the floor, but he's going to have to play and contribute. And if he is effective, let's say he comes back tomorrow, then, if they get he and Klay back and they're rolling along, you know what? They're still going to win.
Tomorrow night right here, 97.3 ESPN, Mitch_Lawrence on Twitter. Check out his latest piece at sportingnews.com and listen to him on SiriusXM NBA radio. Mitch, you the man. We'll talk soon, pal.
Okay, guys. Enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.